I think we talk and we do safety all at work, but what I started with my initiative was as from my home. Every day when you drive from home, you'll see a lot of people texting on the phone. What I started on my own is just to not have that temptation is as soon as I get in my car, I put my phone on the back seat. That way I don't have any distraction of my phone and I don't have to worry about if I have to answer any call or text any messages. So I think safety starts from you. It's not what you tell others or it's not what you think you should do. It starts with you.
Most important thing for me to share with people is to make sure that you're properly CPR trained, or if you get the opportunity, to make sure you take advantage of that opportunity. It was a time where I was about 7 years ago, I was driving to a football game while my wife was pregnant, who happens to be a nurse. And we pulled up on an accident where it looked like laundry had been scattered along the road, but it was actually 8 kids under the age of 8 that had been thrown out of a van because none of them were strapped in by seat belts or car seats or anything like that. So as we did that, my wife immediately makes me pull over. She jumps out, and I just go to assist her, hopping from kid to kid. Some kids were still alive, some were not. And she was going, giving CPR and checking for vital signs and whatnot. And I really couldn't do anything because I didn't know CPR, and I was just, it's probably the most helpless I've ever felt in my life, not being able to do anything. So I wouldn't recommend anybody ever feeling like that. So if you have the opportunity, whether it's your kids, your grandkids, your cousins, nephews, or whatnot, you never know when you could be called in to assist them in a needing situation. So that's what I can tell you. Just if you get the chance, make sure you're CPR certified and take advantage of that.
The share was how quickly nitrogen can kill you. When I was very young and I was just starting out in a chemical plant, one of my first assignments was to look inside of a centrifuge that we were centrifuging crystals out of a solvent. And the centrifuge was inerted with nitrogen, and I looked inside the centrifuge. And what you were supposed to do is look just at the edge, and if you actually had to poke your head inside the basket of the centrifuge, then you would hold your breath. So I actually poked my head inside the centrifuge, and then by mistake I took a breath, and all of a sudden I felt my legs just kind of went very weak, and I got very dizzy, and with my last bit of strength I was able to push myself up out of the centrifuge again, and realized that nobody else was around. So if I had not been able to do that and I'd taken 2 breaths instead of 1, I wouldn't be here talking about this today. So fortunately, these days there are much more rigorous rules about vessel entry, especially vessels that are inerted with nitrogen, and doing oxygen checks first. But there is a very good reason why those rules are in place. Please follow them. Thanks.
At home, things simple such as wearing my safety glasses when cutting the grass, having a fire extinguisher close by whenever there may be a fire at home, making sure that all the lights and things are unplugged when you're leaving home for vacation. Simple things that you think about now that you have a safety culture every day that you preach. At work, you bring that home with you.
I'd like to talk to you all today about the flooding we experienced in Houston back in April. A lot of people lost their homes, a lot of people lost their cars, and unfortunately a few people lost their lives. I was in the group of the cars. I was on my way to work. It was 6 a.m. Monday morning, April 18th, and I was on my way to work. And it was drizzling a little bit, and I'd heard the flash flood warnings on my phone throughout the night and didn't really think anything of it. We experienced that quite frequently. And I got about an hour outside of my neighborhood, it was still residential, and I hit about 3.5 feet of water going 40 miles an hour. And I am definitely in the group of people that has seen people do this in the past and wonder what's wrong with you. How can you not see the water on the road? How does this happen? Being in that situation, I didn't see it. It just looked like the road was wet. It was drizzling outside, and I was on my way to work. I was more concerned about the freeways, what part of 45 and what part of I-10 was going to be flooded. I wasn't thinking about my own neighborhood. So when I hit the water going about 40 miles an hour, it pulled me in like a large puddle, and that's all I thought it was until the water kept coming. And I know that in a situation like that, you're supposed to keep driving. You're not supposed to stop because your car can stall out. So I kept going. But after a few seconds, the water was getting higher, and before I realized it, the water was above the hood of the car, and I realized I needed to get out. I tried to roll the window down, and it tried to go up on its own. So I held it down and had to put the car into park and turn it off. I then called my fiance, and even though the car was off, the phone still worked through the Bluetooth speakers of the car. And I had to carefully disable it on my phone to tell him what was going on. And he was there very quickly, and I had about a minute to decide what to do, and I was able to rescue my laptop bag and my purse by throwing them onto the roof of the car. I then climbed onto the roof of my car myself through the passenger window, and I drive a Ford Escape, which is a smaller SUV, so it was a higher up car. The water was about to the door handles. I couldn't have opened the door if I had wanted to. I sat on the roof of my car for about 2 minutes to decide what to do. I covered my belongings with my trench coat. I slid off the hood of the car and waded in water about up to my waist to a gas station maybe 50 feet away. I'm telling you all this because we're all very astute people, and we consider ourselves to be quite smart in the Future Leader Group. And this can happen to anyone, and it's quite shocking. So above all else, you need to get out of your car. The few people that died that day waited in their car hoping someone would come get them, and because modern cars are so electronic, the computer shorts out and you can't get out. And if water gets so high that you're submerged, you will drown. So above all else, get out of the car. Don't worry about your computer like I did. That's not worth it. Make sure you get out of the car and be safe.
Comment on why I think safety is so important. Since I've gotten involved in this industry, I've learned so much about safety in the workplace and been able to take it home. Just the other day, I had an accident where I fell off of a chair in the kitchen, trying to reach a high glass up in the cabinet by using a chair. And that's something I would never do in the office. Something I've learned from in the office has been to always think about safety before you act. And now I know that I need to bring that home as well.
I've recently incorporated safety at the home. I know a lot of people like to talk about their children. I would like to talk about my parents and my in-laws. I recently saw my mother-in-law put a very large quantity of water into the microwave, which she then proceeded to superheat. So if you see your in-laws do something and you think it's not your place to say something anyway, because you don't want them to get hurt. They're probably getting up in years, and they probably haven't had a sanity check in a while. So be that sanity check for your parents or your in-laws, because sometimes they need it.
Talk about what motivates people for safety. I have 3 rules. You have to make it relevant, you have to make them responsible, and you have to make them accountable. And I would like to just share one example on how simple it is. I was visiting a large organization, and I'm always attracted to posters. And this one had the title Safety Officer of the Day. When you approached the poster, there was no graphic, there was nothing in it except a mirror. You are the Safety Officer of the Day, and that is how you make people motivated for safety. You make them own the concept.
So the best way to motivate people for safety is really creating that culture that everybody's free and everybody's able to care about one another. You learn from one another. If your coworker shows that they care and they're working safely and looking out for you while you're working, it goes a long way with how well the job goes, with how well you do as a person. Because at the end of the day, you really want to make sure that you get home to your friends, to your family, that you're really just out there making a living. And if that culture is there, it shows that you're empowered to enact, to enforce, and to help your fellow coworkers and create that culture that everyone's responsible and you're responsible for each other. It'll go a very long way. It's all about creating a family atmosphere, whether you're at the job site or at work. It's all about one another. And if that culture's there, you will be successful with your safety. You'll be able to go home and hug your family, hug your wife, and hug your children. It's the most important thing you can do on a job site.
I really don't believe that you can motivate people to be safe. They have to motivate themselves to be safe based on the things that they care about. Everybody cares about something, themselves, their family, their pets. They want to go home in the same condition that they came to work. So what happens in the working environment that causes people to not do things that are safe? Generally, it's because they believe that there are expectations to do something faster, stronger, better, to prove themselves in a way that may not really be required of them. So the way that you reinforce that is by setting the expectations that working safely is the expectation and the thing that you want most from them, and the rest will follow. Then they'll motivate themselves to do the job in the safest possible way.
Workplace, we try to extend the loss, how it impacts us all, from a job site to home, or witnessing someone else's loss, whether it's through accidental work causes or whether it's domestic accidental causes, and the value of that loss from a family member and how it extends through a family into the workplace is devastating. So it's up to all of us to be safe for each other, to make sure we're as safe when we go home as we were when we came to work, because we are in the business of human capital and how precious it is to us at first home, to our family, and to our work family.
The best safety initiative I was ever involved in was we were working on a project in Port Arthur. It was the garbage bag cleanup. We had every white hat on the job come out and walk through the work areas, picking up trash. Housekeeping seems like a minor thing, but it leads to many other issues. So that was the best because it got us out with the craft, interacting with the day-to-day workforce, and clean up the project at the same time.
So one of the safety initiatives I'm very proud of we've been working on in my group is the focus on process safety. We talk a lot around occupational safety and have a lot of programs focused on that, but I think process safety is very important from an engineering perspective, and how we can design our processes and our projects to minimize process safety incidents and improve process safety performance for our companies.
I want to talk for a second about why I joined the safety team. I joined the safety team because I think it's the one part of the ECC where everybody has common ground, whether you're an owner, a supplier, a vendor, EPC firm, everybody has a part to play in safety, and this is a great team and a great organization in which to bring that to the forefront. So thank you for participating in the safety videos, and have a great ECC conference this year.